Okay, this is a video. This is a video about a solar model. Now, the reason I'm making this video primarily is because I had some wonderful people. I took a little trip to Mumbai, and we had a little class on making a solar model, and I didn't quite finish the model, so I'm going to use this as a way to go through things. I think what I'm going to do is go through page by page and let me just discuss a couple of things on each page. So this is I've been struggling with this generic macros crap, and most people don't use it. But if you do use it, and I keep changing it, and you could criticize, oh, it's not like it's some other thing you pay money for. Okay, so we'll show you how to make a little table of contents. Fine. And then we have a summary page. And on that summary page, I just want to go through. There is absolutely there are no rules for really a summary page. I'm going to use it to discuss some of the kind of characteristics and what, in my humble opinion, you might want to present on a summary page. And we'll talk about inflation versus not inflation. And then we have an input C page, and I hope that I did this with this input C page. I'm also doing this. Ooh, look how slow the model is. Okay, I'm happy it's a little bit slow. And I'll explain at the end not even at the end why I'm so happy. So this is a style, but we'll go through some of the input C variables, including the operations, the cost, and everything else. And I don't think I think I didn't finish a sentence just before. Man, am I degrading. Degradation, mine. It follows a slope, probably, in my brain. I'm doing this also because it's very, very similar to the style we're using in our weekly, weekend classes, modules, discussions, whatever you say. Crazy idiots who would want to spend their weekend, take time out of their weekend and talk about modeling. Oh my God. Well, probably that input C shouldn't have had a space. And then we have input S, and I believe in flexible input S's, which might not be consistent with some of the rules. And we're going to talk about a really horrible kind of little issue, which is how do we, if we have, for example, a semi-annual model, but some seasonality in our solar power, and then maybe the model starts in January or March or July or whatever, or maybe June or whatever, then we'd have a little different numbers in our semi-annual periods when we're going to repay the cash flow and do some sculpting. So how can we incorporate that? And then the main thing, I put the whole financial model in one page. I want to show you a little crap like this, and how you structure the model, how you make the model flexible. So we're going to make our model totally flexible so we can put flexible timing in here. Why is it a little bit slow here? I think it's just because I put so many rows in here. And we have different construction periods and operating periods, and how do we structure the FA, and how do we make our model accurate? That's our audit page. FAS, how do we structure our model? With going up to the after-tax project IRR, and then after that, size the debt with either debt to capital, where the debt is kind of given, but what happens if we put some debt to capital in, and the DSCR, which is much more meaningful a statistic, and in terms of measuring risk, what happens if that is lower than the minimum DSCR we want? So we put somewhere minimum DSCR as an input, and then we're going to make some sensitivity analysis. I'm just going to show all these things to you. and have a little presentation on what the price of electricity is if we have a target return. Oops, I don't know. Looks like I have to rerun the thing. I hope I do. And then what happens, what's the value of our project and what's our IRR if we start the value. Now, I think you could argue, and this is for me a little more interesting, the place you should start any kind of target IRR, which is the cost of capital. We'll talk a little bit about theory. The way you could start is, let's see what we think we can sell this project for in a couple of years. Now, if we could bid on the project and make a little bit of a lot higher IRR, that's how we're going to figure out what we can bid on the project. Kind of, we'll start with where we're going to sell it. After everything stabilizes, try to make a little bit more than that of an IRR because we have a little more risks. That's how you should think about the IRR, whether it's equity IRR or project IRR. Then we'll have an audit page. Oops, and that means I have to rerun the circular reference. I'm going to change some crap here too, actually, as I go along when I see these little mistakes I made. And what I'm doing, by the way, is in our class in Mumbai, I wasn't able to finish kind of everything. So I'm almost afraid to press this. I think when I do this, it goes through the circular reference on every single scenario. I'll talk about that. And that takes a little bit of time. Look how much time that's taking. And we're going to talk about how to make that time quicker. Actually, that wasn't really that much time, was it? And then we'll talk. There was a really good question about if we have a battery system and we have to augment the battery, kind of how much does that little stuff, how much does that increase the cost? Now you can model it. For me, something really important, but I won't spend too much time on it, is reconciling the financial model to what I like to compute with a levelized cost of electricity, and just have one or two formulas down here. These kind of formulas. After we adjust some IRRs, we put some formulas in here, and then we match the rate. Don't worry about this. This is because I have a flexible timing scenario here. And then I have some UDF stuff, which I'm not going to talk about, because I'm going to talk about that in another session. Oh my gosh, see, I have a flexible timing. That's kind of sculpting, but we could even make a more flexible timing where we do monthly. That's our F flexibility, F accuracy with our audit page, and that's taking a long time. And FAS, structure the model correctly. I think that, Kenny, I hope, is my good friend. I hope he's not mad at me. Coming up with that religion is a really good thing. How we apply it, that's a different kind of story. Okay, so let's go through this just a little bit more in detail now. Of course, I'm really going to try now to put this. I'm going to put this model in a couple of places, actually. On my website, and I think that the main place I'll put it is here. I can do this right here. It says leave. I'm going to put it right here. Can I do that with this? You can see me even having the pro. So if you go to project finance, featured project finance models right there. Project finance featured. Oh God, I can't even do this. Oh, shit. And then you go to files. Oh God damn. Okay, right down here. Files and videos for weekend sessions. I consider this file close enough to the other one, to the one we're kind of working on, with the timelines, with the structure, we haven't really done our audit page yet. So what? I consider that close enough that we'll use it. Okay, and whenever I record these videos, but here, by the way, I'm trying to kind of record a video almost every week where we go through step by step by step. This is a little kind of out of place, but not that bad. The next one will be a Monte Carlo simulation. Now, if I would press Control A, Control A twice, Control minus, let's get rid of this thing. And now I'm kind of afraid because I worked on this. I was going to make this video yesterday. And if you have to have this generic macros open, please try to open it. Please go to the home page of my website, click on that blue button that says generic macros, download it, and then unblock it. You got to right click, unblock it, take away the stupid little unblock thing, and then open it, and then implement it. I better implement it. So once you've got it open, I'm sorry to go through this all the time again and again. You have to press this little button to make sure it's all working, okay? Once you've made sure it's working, okay, then, here we are, Control-Alt-C, or I said before, you can just directly run the macro, or you can try to assign it to a different button. We did this in the class. Now I'm going to run the table of contents, and it's kind of, you can then go and see all it does is does a little for loop around all the sheets. A really easy thing to do. I have this stupid little disclaimer page. I'm not going to put that one in. I think I even, before I was saying, why don't we put, this thing where you say you have to agree to some silly little terms and then read it, and then it gives you the titles. Now, the only other thing here, what I wanted to say is that this took me a while to do. You see it says if error, put the file name in, and I guess I have this this is where I put it, and this last save date, I should put the regular, change the date thing around. I'm sorry, I put it like this, and you can put your name in there from the computer, I guess. Okay, so what I'm going to do is, what happens, the way to get this, I'm going to go to the developer and macros just for a minute, and if I put... I think I called this other functions, didn't I? Let's just see. Let's edit this. And we have all these little functions here. Now, to get these functions, what you can do, I'm deleting everything, okay? I'm deleting all these things. And, I should even go to the developer and macros, and I should even... whoops, I thought I just deleted this, and I have a function, just a module. This is called a module. Interpolate functions, just 1 second. These functions that say menu. So what you can do, I'm going to delete this whole thing. Remove functions menu. Do I want to save it? No. Okay, let's see if it really worked. So if you don't have these functions, this will just go away. So I put the little if error, and then if you press Control-Alt-C again and want to import those functions into your sheet, you go to this thing called Import Functions, and I'm not doing the financial, this is called the India Solar Model, so we have some, I can't understand the India currency lakhs or the rupee or clone and all that stuff, but you can just adjust this, of course, and then you go down to this one, and I had to put a little thing because I was messing around with it. I hope it's going to work. Now, once you import those functions, then they'll be accessible, and then you can get this, and then I hope if I saved it again, will it give me, so it's 1111, whatever. I hope it, did it give, yes, it gave me the new time, okay? All right, so, and obviously I found those, and then you can, let's go, if we want to go to the timeline, we click here, and we can go back, and let's go to the summary page, okay? And let's talk about some things in the summary page. So the first thing, I'm going to go back, and this is going to take a minute now, okay? And what it's doing here one of the reasons it takes a little time is I said we've got a circular reference with a copy and paste. And when we have a circular reference with a copy and paste, it just had to do that copy and paste, and that takes a little bit of time. Okay, and for me, and this we have some, let's just work through this. I would start with what drives the value of solar. It's the yield or the capacity factor. Of course, the yield is just, the capacity factor is just this divided by 8,760, and this should be called annual yield. So I'll keep doing this. The capex per kilowatt hour. This is what they're paying in India. This is so interesting. So I convert that to USD. This should shock the hell out of people. In US, I think the cost is about 1,300 or 400, some crazy number. In Africa, the way they steal money from Africa, everybody. Oh my gosh! And this is the O&M per kW. And I asked it, does this include insurance or not? Because insurance has been going up. Yes, it does. So we put these things in the currency, and now we can really define everything. In fact, what we can do is we can get the PPA price. Now, if you press Control and square bracket, you can see where this comes from, an F5 and enter, okay? And so I have a separate little PPA analysis in a minute. Now, this inflate PPA price, I kind of put it two things. That's not very good. And when I put a little thing here, that allows us to inflate the price. Now, right now, our price is flat, and we've got inflation in O&M, and that means the real price is much less than if we put this price that's flat and then deflate it over here. We get it now. The project PRO, oh my gosh, PRO, those, remember I told you the story of the auditors who told me, you spelled it wrong, and then they spelled the word spelling wrong. I loved it. And I tried to tell my client, just be sarcastic, and they wouldn't do it. They wouldn't do it. They just corrected the spelling mistakes. How sad is that? And then I think here, and I just had another session with some really nice people who are working on all these. Should we get a grant? Should we get a concessional loan? Whatever you call this. You need to support some financing for adaptation with this green. I said what we have to do is understand all the IRRs. And this time we could run the model with either setting a target IRR and then inflating the price or not. And then we put a price. So when you compare this debt IRR, which is essentially the interest rate, but it has a couple of little fees here, as long as this pre-tax project IRR, this debt IRR is pre-tax too. So I like this pre-tax IRR. Some guy started yelling at me, you shouldn't even present that. Who cares? I think it's good to present, because you're comparing this, and then we get a little bit of an equity IRR. And remember, to get that, you might start with, how much are investors really going to pay in terms of the target IRR they have? And then we put in the DSCR, but it could be the case. Now, right now, the DSCR is below. I should have maybe put the maximum. I'm running out of space here, so let's move this and put the maximum debt to capital. Okay, so this is good to go through this. I ran out of space. Who cares? And press a percent. And if this didn't give you one, you press shift. No, I can't do that. Can I? Oh no, can I? Because of the stupid shortcut in this thing. And then we'll go to the financial model and get it. Okay, and it's blue here in the financial model, meaning it's coming from a different place. And I think this might now, when we did all of this analysis, now when I make a graph, perhaps I can do this really quickly. I like to use this, I've been talking about using the NA trick, which is really, really wonderful. If I'm just going to talk about this graph for just a second. If I take this graph and use this NA trick here, I'm going to select the area, and I put NA here. I said if it's not the, well, I use this one. If it's not the operating period, then press NA, and this has to be formatted as a date. If you'd format it like this, it wouldn't work. Oh, I Shift Control 3. I can do that. So once you have this formatted a date, I don't want to show this, and I don't want to show all this other crap here. In fact, let's just show you that. So if I take this, all this analysis, I press F11, it kind of does the date. If I didn't, if I went to format access and I put it as a text access or something, it would look like this. It wouldn't be flexible. Okay, so we don't want to do that. I just deleted that. But here's the problem. Oh, no, okay, I think it's okay. If I take this area and press F11 again, the only thing I remember that my class when some lady said, oh, the only thing I learned is F11. And then if I try to make this into an area chart, this is the kind of shit I worry about. Okay, if I make this into an area chart, then the problem is you have, no, I wanted an area. And then you have this little kind of diagonal line, and this isn't, the things are really kind of going down piece by piece, and it's not going down annually. So I said, oh, what can we do? Well, my little technique to get rid of that is to, now I'm going to do it somewhere else without the dates. Okay, if I press, does this work? Let's press F11. Okay, and then all I do is I click on one of the series. I'm sorry to show you this if this is not what you were looking for. If I go to Format Data Series and put no gap in the graphs, can I do this? Do I have to put a series overlap of nothing? And then I can kind of show this. This is really what's happening, and especially if you have monthly stuff, it goes down. So the problem is this doesn't work with the NA. And so what you can do is use something that I used to use all the time, which is to, I'm going to show you this here. And it's painful. This is painful, but sometimes you want to do this. So instead of the old way that I used to use before the NA trick was you'd select the data, and you see it selects this data. Now, I made using an offset function. If you define a range name, I don't want to spend too much time on it. If you define a range name with an offset function and go for a flexible width, you can do this. But when you do this, you have to put in, I named my range graph data. Okay. And then it works, but I had to make a little macro, and here's why I had to make a macro, and this is our flexibility thing again. If I want to do this monthly, I have to change it's an Excel bug, I think. What can I say? The damn Excel, it's not good. And so if I want to have this kind of seasonal stuff, you can see what I had to do if you right click and look at this macro. I had to redefine, I'll show you what the hell. Okay, so I had to kind of record a macro, and then I had to put this graph data in, and then if you press Control and F3, I'm showing you little shit here, but whatever. Some people are interested in this crap, and where is my graph data? EFG, graph data. And if you go to this graph data, you can see what it does, and it takes, this is an offset function. It starts at the right place. It goes 0, 0, and then I put 2 for the number of rows, but the number of columns here this time, because it's month by month, it went 420. Okay, so it's a pain to get a nice flexible graph, but you can do it. Okay, the next thing I said is, okay, right now, what just happened? This project pre-tax project IRR did not meet the target. Maybe I'll just talk about this for a minute. So we start with dates of the construction, and again in the weekend session, somebody asked, what happens if it's the middle of the month and all that? What happens if the debt issues come at a different day? That's a great question. But I just did this monthly. So many of these are just monthly. And I said, okay, let's put a flexible timing scenario. Now, when I did this, I'm not going to go through this too much, I think, right now, because I did elsewhere. But if you, let's go to the second scenario. And in the second scenario, I changed the cost. So what happened is, in India, they told me, oh no, the government made us not be able to buy the panels from China the way we used to. So the cost went up. And here's the cost in USD. It's still remarkably low. Okay, so I didn't cry so much. And then one of the things you really want to do out of this, now we'll talk about how to connect the input S and the input C and put different inflation rates in and blah, blah, blah. But here's the deal. You might want to either inflate the PPA price, keep it flat, and you might want to put your own kind of, let's make this 11%. Now, before you yell at me and say, you hypocrite, you was talking about having not so high cost of capital, while the inflation rate was pretty high. They said the inflation rate in India is about 5%. So if it's 2 or 3%, which I don't know what it is with our wonderful stuff in the US, whatever. Okay, how do we do a goal seek? And you could do a goal seek either. And how do we do a goal? Really put the FAST, F in fast. How do we make the goal seek work and make the goal seek work if we have different timing? And the different timing here, I should have told you, is this flexible timing says we'll make one every column. I heard this is, what is this, a caret? A column? I'm not sure if that's correct. Somebody has to, nobody will tell me. Every single column is 1 month. Here, every single column is 12 months. Should I say, I should say, maybe put months in column. Caret. COOLUMN. Okay? And months in column again. Is that okay? And the big deal, in any project finance, the big deal is to distinguish between when you have to get money and have a cash flow statement that's called the uses and sources of funds or financing requirements and where do we get the money, and a cash flow waterfall after the thing. Okay, we'll put it all together later on and make a cash flow statement, blah, 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 blah. But that's why you have this important distinguishing, and why you might make it 1 and 6 here is because we're paying interest every single month, and here we're repaying the debt in 6 month periods, and we better not really do this where I model the whole thing on a month by month basis. Okay, but I'm just illustrating that. And then here's the other thing. I hate this when I read a model and they don't, in a solar model, they don't tell me if it's MWC or MWAC. This 1.3, I'd love to talk about it so much more, but it depends on how hot it is outside and how when you have this thing called the STC, and if you can get 1,000 watts per meter squared from the sunlight, and gets something at 25 degrees centigrade. That does never, ever, ever happen. That's how we define capacity. It's like you have a car and you're saying, how fast can the car go? That's our maximum speed or our capacity or the number of seats in an airplane, and we fill them up. That's our capacity. With solar, we say the capacity is 1,000 watts per meter squared if it's kWp, and that's how we measure the price, kind of the DC amount. And then we say it has to be at 25 degrees Celsius, and that's how you do your flash test. and you can never get there. So it's like false advertising. The capacity is never there. So the capacity at AC could be here, or it could be different. And then we get our in-plane radiation, and that should say for a year. This is annual, okay? And you should be careful, and then we could put a performance ratio and get our MWH, and we should say whether that's MWHP or not, and we put different capacity factors in. So if you're doing some benchmarking, which is, I think, really important, you put that in and you have some availability. And availability could be a big issue from transmission, not you'll do your maintenance at night, hopefully, take your phone and put the flashlight on or something. I don't know how you do it. Okay, and then we have our O&M, big issue, and then I put that in. I should put this annual O&M again too, because we're going to be careful. And then I convert this to USD, and they gave me the conversion. And then we have connections with if I press Alt MD, it tells me, tells me where it's going. I wanted to see, oh yes, and then I press Alt MD here, and it tells me it's going here. Alt MD, I like that little shortcut, so you don't have to go around. And then all of these things, you put a code number in input C that comes, so everything, all the scenarios are driven from that. And I said, okay, we're going to have some different inflation. I know other people do it where they put it all in the input C and have these really long input C things. I think if we're going to do it like this, we just need a little a lookup function, and do a really fast little lookup function. I go crazy with people who say best practices and all that. How could you tell me what's the best way to do it? I think the best way to do it is for a user to understand things really well and not follow blindly some rules. Now, the other thing I did, and this is really hard, if we have, in this case, I'm going to put the flexible timing. Now, I should tell you the other thing. If you, to use everything, I didn't, see, look at this. I have to press the reset graph here, okay? Why is that taking so long? I didn't think I'm doing that much here. Okay, oops, and this is, so what we have is, we have the cash flow going up, and if we would change in this one, let's say let's change the construction period to 18 months. And that means that when we start our project, we're going to start in a different season. Now, I was hoping that you'd see a little bit of a different kind of thing. Maybe what if we put 19 months, and that's I might put 20 months. See, you can see the seasonal effect is less. If we put 20 months, I think there's the monsoon happens, and then that means we kind of split the monsoon, I think, or something like that. Whatever. Okay, so how do we reflect this seasonality in a model that has a semi-annual period? And this is painful. So if we go over here, when we start, we have to put 2 months. And why did I not kind of put this? I don't know. I'll put Alt WFF, take it away. Alt WFF again, and put it here. How do we split this up so that if this is September and January, we get 2 of these months here because we start over here in September, go down to December, but then we got to go to the rest of the 6 months. How in the heck do we do that? Now, I tried to write some flags, and those formulas, I couldn't get it. So it's simple little formula. So instead, I said, let's just write this out as a little user-defined function. It's like the sum function, and the user-defined function says, give me the month, and then give me the dates. Now, these dates come from the financial model. These dates come from over here. So again, I'm kind of going forward and backwards, and I don't know how this is working. We have a general period. If it's the construction period, we have one period. So this end of the month takes the beginning of the month, and then we go here. And again, this is so important. Look at this. Every formula. Look at the formula bar. Every formula is really, really simple. Oh, a little tiny bit. And then I put a little stupid little thing here because everybody does it. I'm copying what other people do. So I made a solar model ages ago, and then we take the capacity, multiply it by an operation flag, and we get this. This is the lookup function. And then I wonder if I can press F5 and go back. Yes, I can. So this says, put this little find month function, and the way you get that find month find month function is you press Control-Alt-C again. Okay, just like I did before. I'm trying to sell you something that's free. It's free. Who cares? I just put a lot of effort into this stupid thing. And if you press Import Functions, up here I have somewhere where is it? Find month. Come on, there must be here. Where is it? Payback. Retrieve find month. You click on that one and it sticks the function in your file, because you cannot have this thing where you, like a macro, where you can call another macro from another sheet. No, with a function, a user-defined function, when you're like making your own little sum function, you have to do it yourself. So you go to macros, and then what it did, again, I kind of learned from that very first one. If there's something called function add test interpolate, come on, GF, where is the find month function? Whatever, it's here somewhere. I'm sorry, maybe it's in this one. Yes, whatever. Okay, I'm sorry, I'm getting off track. But you could find this function, and it'll show you kind of what you have to do. That was kind of bad. I should have stopped the tape. Yes, I'm going to stop the stupid video and find it. Okay, yeah, I told you that I keep changing this generic macros. Next time I'm going to make absolutely sure that it goes right into the right place. This is, I put a sub named find month, blah, 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 find month function. So if you go to sub and you just go down here and it says find month function, you could edit this and find it, because the function name doesn't show up. I don't know, that probably fancy people can get it. And then what did I do? I said, okay, you read in the start date and the end date and the test month, and then you have to do this, all of this kind of stuff to get it out. Okay, if it's less than this, and you have to adjust for 6 months and all that. Okay, so that's, you can see how it works a little bit. Okay, and then what you do is you take the true and false upstairs, and you just multiply. I haven't looked at that in years. I'm recording, right? Okay, it's already 38 minutes. Oh, God, I don't want to torture you with these long videos. Okay, and then all I'm doing is multiplying this by the thing above. Okay, and now if we, so where are we? That was the find month function. And then we get our capex, and with the capex we have a lookup function, or you could use XLOOKUP. I should be using XLOOKUP a little bit more, but that's the only function. And I even say, okay, you know, this generic macros, I promise not to open it one more time. Okay, but it does color things whenever you have a little exclamation point. It goes, is there an exclamation point? If there's an exclamation point, then go and color it. So we see that comes from the input S page, as does the inflation rate. And we put this S curve in. And now when you have the inflation rate, remember, you cannot just take the inflation rate annual and divide it by, in this case, we divide it by 12 if it's here, But if we got the flexible thing, we divide it by 6, and so we divide it by the number of months, which is a range name, and then in turn divide it by again the 6. So that basically raises it to the second power, which is not exactly the same as dividing it by 2, and that is because when you compound the inflation rate over a year, you want it to end up at 5%. Not if you divide it by 2, it would compound to more. I call this decompounding. There's got to be a better name for that. Okay, and then you put the sums in the right column, and you get your O&M expenses. And then we put our revenues in, and we have a little flag for whether we're inflating it or not. And again, every single thing comes from this column right here. Every single thing comes from that column. Press F5 to go back there, and then we either put an inflation rate or not in. And if you're really worried about the auditors, I put a little range name called 1, Shift Control R. Okay, who cares? And this up here, this to inflate this is an input. If you put equal 1 like that, then they won't complain about you then. And then I'm just, what a hypocrite. I said I wasn't going to do this. And then we do the coloring again. This time I put some colors on the top. And I forgot to take it away, and I've got to stop the pause. Okay, sorry about that. Okay, I can't use my own programs properly. Okay, and then how about let's stop there and talk about our goal seek. Well, I'm going back to the financial model a little bit. Okay. Right now, it doesn't have this. Now, if I would just do a regular old goal seek, here's what I did. I used if G54, and that must have been a flag for whether it's annual, okay? If that's annual, just use the regular old NPV. Otherwise, use the XNPV. I don't know what we could have. The reason I did that is because the regular NPV, XNPV, is different from NPV because of 365 versus 366 days in a year. The XNPV doesn't really work. So, and when we're reconciling all of this with the LCOE, we want to do this. So if I go to data, of course, and what if analysis and goal seek, and set the NPV to 0 by changing, and what I'd have to do is, in this case, change the price, and I'd have to go to this input C and go to our flexible kind of scenario, which we happen to be on, and change the price right here. That's the way I could do it. Okay, but it was so exciting. My very first macro was a goal seek macro like this, so we just record this, and then we should make it much more flexible. Okay, we should make it much more flexible. And now, if you take the NPV of the revenues divided by the NPV of the generation, XNPV, then you can get the levelized cost of electricity. Okay, and that levelized cost of electricity isn't exactly the same as the price, is it? Or is it? Just a minute. Yes, it is, because the price is just flat. So we do that. But then the question is, we have all this stuff in about degradation and everything else. Before I do this, let's just go to assign macro and press edit. And then here is the thing we would have created with a goal seek, basically. But then we can take, and if we go across all of the scenarios, we start at scenario 1. Okay, well, no, I start at the scenario. I set the scenario 1. That scenario is that key number in the input C page. And I change this from 1 to 2 to 3 to 4 to 5, 6, 7 to 8. And then I do, just in case the stupid copy and paste won't work, we have to do that and then do the goal seek, then redo kind of the copy and paste. I don't know if you really have to do this. I think this would work. I hope. So let's see how this works. Let's just change let's go to the base case. And if I put the Okay, changed it to the base case, I think. We're at 10.5 now, which is the last one. So now if I do the goal seek, if you notice, it's going to go around and around and around. That's how you, now I'm trying to get this video to a manageable length. So I just wanted to show you what's in there, and then you can kind of put this in, and that takes too long. Because of the goal seek, it really takes too long. Okay, it really does. I'm still talking and it's not finished. It should be finished right now. Okay, come on, come on. Why? What's going on? Okay, finish now. Okay, I why is it going around again? Okay, and let's pause for a second. Now that took a long time, and in a way, I'm sad, but I'm so happy I can't tell you, because I came up with this UDF method that makes it go so much faster, and you can do the goal seek and everything at the same time. Oh, that's good. I'm going to show you that in a different video. Now what I'm going to do here is because I want to talk about the LCOEs a little bit, and I hope you get just a kind of general idea. Right now, the debt to capital is the constraint you see before, and the DSCR is a little bit more than 1.22. You could do a whole bunch of other things with the DSCR. Let me also just talk about one other issue. Okay, in terms of getting the debt sizing right, you have to use the NPV formula for the debt service. Okay, and I think I did this. We have a tail, we have a DSCR, all of that stuff. And we're on the flexible timing method. And this might be kind of the real case, when you, when you go through the debt sizing, okay, I start and get the P90 case. And in getting the P90 case, the P90 depends all on a standard deviation, which is a lot of BS half the time. It's really just a downside case. And the downside case does not come from the solar being a little more cloudy or less cloudy, whatever, the sunlight hits the panel. It comes from making mistakes. And that's why the risk of a solar project is so dramatically different after you've started it compared to when you're doing all the estimation. Okay, but you can use that norm inverse somewhere. I better have used the norm inverse of function with 10%. That means it's P90. So we put a P90 case, we redo our EBITDA, and then we have to take the taxes away, which causes a circular reference. And you notice what I did here. I said go down below and find where the circular reference is fixed. So this is the modern method that, again, I stole from everybody. All I'm doing with any of these models is saying, okay, let's steal some good stuff, leave the crappy stuff. So you put you put a formula that links to where the calculation is made for taxes. Let's go up here. Or this is IDC, excuse me. Okay, interest during construction. I don't care. And then we put we get the taxes from here. Control square bracket. Okay, and then we have to, that's 25% after we made our NOL calculation, which is max min, and you should get that. And if you look at every single formula, look at the formula bar, look at it again and again and again, and look at every single formula. And the only thing that you might have is a little bit of a lookup function somewhere. And those numbers that were fixed just down there, that's from running a copy and paste macro. And you can just throw everything into the computed block first, and that comes from the sheet. You copy it with the way you copy it is to a fixed block, as you go to this one and press edit, and you can just do a little do until, and that's it. That's it. The only problem is it slows down the Excel a lot. Okay, and then if you have a goal seek, you got to do the goal seek and the copy paste. And if you got to change the scenario, you got to run the copy paste each time, and that can take a little while. It depends on how many things you have. Now, the reason I back to what I was talking about. So we start with our debt sizing, and we take our P90 case, and then we also compare that to the debt to capital. And then when we look at our CFADS over the debt sizing, here's our CFADS. We look at for if we're going to size the debt from the debt to cash flow, we take our minimum DSCR, and we take the cash flow after all the taxes at P90, and don't give a crap. You do not give a crap if, oh no, there's a tax loss with the P90. Should we have used the P50? Do we get a P benefit of the P? No, yes, just leave it. It's a downside case. Just think, if it's a downside case, we're going to make a consistent downside case and then pretend we have a downside case, including taxes and everything else. And I doubt that just because there's an NOL, the downside case will be better than the upside case, because then you wouldn't have an NOL. Okay? Okay, and then when we do our taxes, we better adjust for the interest during construction taxes and all that. And then here, where did I put, where is the debt schedule? Okay, here's our debt schedule. We're repaying the debt. Oh, and I wanted it. Oh, I think I put a little bit of a higher. I wanted to see if this repayment goes to a negative number. If it does, we've got a little bit of a problem. We got to fix our formulas, and that's painful. And that, I'm not claiming it's not painful. Okay, and so let's stop here. But right now, I'm going to say they told me that a lot of these PPAs get inflated. Okay, and if they're inflated, oh shoot, we got to redo the goal seek. So I'm going to pause the video. Okay, so now we have this inflation. 5% is a lot of inflation. And our price goes up. So that means our real price is flat. So we start with a low price. Oh, excuse me, I didn't mean to do that on the video. And then we have the kind of flattened price. I think this is the real price. This reflects the economics of the project, and I go crazy about that, and I'm going to stop. Okay. Now, when we work through this, excuse me for kind of being slow about this. First, if I put it on that flexible scenario, it'll be little different. This is the price that comes from the goal seek, and that took a long time to run. But over here, I've got an LCOE page. And the most exciting thing in this LCOE page is when we went through and computed the cost of a battery, the cost of the solar, put them together, and saw what the overall levelized cost of a battery plus a solar is. And that should scare the heck out of nuclear people like me, kind of a little bit. That 5 cents that you can, because they told me the cost per kilowatt hour, they gave me the cost per kilowatt hour of battery. So this is fascinating stuff. It's well fascinating. The world's changing, and you got to keep an open mind. Look at this. We just go through some little formulas. We go through some adjustments in the present value. Just a minute. We take our target IRR, our 11% target IRR. Notice I changed this so we could do some scenarios. We put our inflation rate. We get the number. We make a little adjustment for degradation. Have a couple more little adjustments for O&M expenses. We compute the carrying charges with PMT formulas. I've done too many videos on there, and nobody wants to look at this crap anyway. And then you can get the price, exactly the same price. This price came from the model. Okay, this came from the goal seek up here. And then we go over here. Why did we even have to make the model? Well, yeah, you need the debt financing and all that. But this incorporates all the stuff. It's got the cost of the equipment. It's got the degradation rate somewhere. It's got somewhere I put the availability. We can do it with different inflation rates. And when we do the inflation rate, it doesn't have to be a flat inflation rate. The inflation rate, what you can do is use kind of a compound growth rate. So you make a little index, take the last value divided by the current value to get the effective compound growth rate. So if we want to change the inflation rate and get that reflected, and if I put the two, what was number 2? Notice how here, when I put high inflation, I use an index function again with this code number, and then we press F5 and go back to it. And now it's this 5.86. That's the amount we use. It's got kind of the compound growth rate over time with the 5 and the 6 together. So I'm going to press F5, go back, and I'm going to put it back to our flat inflation, which was number 3. So that's how it's good that we did that. I did that, I think, because you can see how the whole thing connects. And then, so I think that's, I really want to get to the end here, okay? And then once we do this one, let's just look at one more thing. Again, I think we've kind of shown you, and I hope the idea behind this is if you want to take a look at this and use it, I don't know why you'd use it, or copy some of the ideas from it, that's really the idea, okay? And right now I'm changing the scenario, and I might pause it just because it's running through the goal sync again, and I don't have to, okay? I don't have to. And then, so this time we had our seasonal stuff coming from all of this business, and in our financial model, we go up here and we get our seasonal cash flows in here. And then we take that seasonality and put it down into the P90 somewhere down here. Whoops. P90 here. Okay. Oh, shoot. And then we get our P90 with the seasonality, and you can kind of see how I got this stuff. Okay, it was exactly the same as above. I can't see how to do this without putting a separate P90 in. If P90 drives the debt size, but you want the IRR based on the P50, okay, and then we go down and look at our target DSCR, and once that defines how we're going to repay the debt, and we use a target DSCR that's the maximum of the DSCR that we get from debt sizing, and the way we do that was we take the NPV. I use the sum product. I compute a little index. I've gone through that so many other times. You can take a look at this and justify it, or go back to some of the other ones. I really want to get through this. And finally, when there's our debt schedule, okay, and what I do here is just start it, and it doesn't. Oh yes, I add some negative numbers. So those negative numbers would cause a big problem for some people. And should we put a debt service reserve account in, or should we give them a little revolving credit agreement where, when they pull money out of the a revolving credit agreement, that's positive cash flow that adds to the CFADS, and we have to adjust for the interest you pay on the revolving credit? Or should we just stick add these up, and then you have to, I would say that's not good enough, because if you just add those to the cash flow, that won't be good enough. That doesn't give you a DSCR. You need to add those and divide by the DSCR to get how much extra cash you should put in there and then pull out. Okay, enough of that. So we'll go through that another time. And then finally, just to finish this up, we put a project sale in here. Okay, and the project sale gives you a higher IRR. If we're starting with 11 and we're getting this kind of whatever IRR, we're getting a much higher one. I should make absolutely sure that that's not kind of distorted. I think I checked most of this stuff out. Okay, so if we, I don't know why I put a discount right here. So we get a much higher IRR if we sell the project early, and we just have to use a couple of flags and an NPV function and figure out what kind of discount rate we're using. And then you can get these much higher IRRs. And then what you can do is figure out, well, if this is too high, you think you're going to lose the bid because other people are going to do the same thing. You figure out, well, what kind of IR do we really need if we're going to sell the project like everybody else is going to do? Then I put a sensitivity analysis in. Now, to make this sensitivity analysis, I made a little macro instead of using a data table, because a data table would be a disaster. And when you make a data table, the biggest, here you can see what happens. I make a little output. That's where the data is going to go. And then I say, once we have that output, I can clear the contents, color it differently, and all that stuff. And then you just use the cells command and a for next loop. So the big deal is use for next loop and also cells. And basically it replicates what you would do with with a data table. Okay, and then you can pick the variables and you can look exactly how it works. And then I make a little waterfall chart. I'd rather make a waterfall chart than I used to make those tornado charts. And I start with a base case and then take the difference between the base case and the last case, and then we finally put a worst case. And you select this area, and once you selected this area, you press I'll press alternate F1 to get it in this thing. You right click, go to change the chart type, you make it a cash flow waterfall, you put that in here, you click on this until you just get this, and you set as a total. I don't know why it did there, and then you put the labels in, and then that's for me a good way to present this. Now that depended on in the input C case, if I'm going from best to worst. Okay, and I'm skipping over the flexible timing. Just skip, blah, 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 blah. You notice I went from 3 to 5 and stopped at 7. Okay, when you do that, you kind of gradually say this is the best case, then the cost went higher, and so we. I think I don't have to show you that, do I? It's just a little gimmick thing on the developer. Okay, you can see what I changed the cost, and yes, and then the price changed, and then we go to the next one. Okay, and now it's changing. I must have had a goal seek connected to that. Okay, and then or something circular reference. That's a pain about the circular reference. Then we put higher O&M, so we've got the higher cost and the higher O&M, and you can see with the colors what's changing. Okay, and then this shows you the value of the project, and it has this funny pattern because of the inflation. If there was no inflation, it would just keep going down. EBITDA kind of goes up and up and up, so the value goes up here. And you've got to figure out when you want to sell it, okay? And there might be different optimal times to sell it. Oh, this says, I thought I ran that with a copy and paste, and that's our audit page. And in the audit page, I did two things. I should have left this. And it's taking too long. Okay, and what happens is right up here, if it's true, then leave it blank. But if it's false, tell me what went wrong. So if I'm just gonna cheat and put this one to be false, and how about this one to be false. I've got to remember to undo that. What happened here? Do I have to press F9? The stupid thing here. Okay, and then what happens is you use this thing. It's another user-defined function. And I guess I have a little extra space, but it says add text. So that add text puts it together and puts a space in between. And if it's false, then we say the S curve doesn't work and the copy and paste doesn't work. Okay, luckily I can put this down here. So we make a little thing over there. And then I'm not going to go through this augmentation. I went through the LCOE. And then You notice how the copy and paste took a long time. Okay, we put it in the copy block, paste block, and then do a very simple set the fixed value equal to the computed value, and that takes the whole range name, and that's by far the most efficient way to do it. But it still takes a long time. And so we can use a user-defined function to fix all of that. And I think that's, oh no, I've got to reset the graph. This when I change this thing here, I automatically, I think, assign it to a macro that has the reset in it. Yeah, so I do a copy paste first and then do the reset of the graph. Okay, I hope I've explained some things and given you just a couple of ideas. And that's enough of this video.